بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the 8th episode in this Seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna sayyidina Muhammadan rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sharafa karama barak wa azam wa as-sahabati wa tabi'in wa tabi'it tabi'in bi ihsan ila yawm ad-din wa alayna ma'ahum fi kulli lamhatin wa nafsin adad ma ma'sumullah amma ba'd. In this session we will simply look at the rebuilding of the Kaaba. Alhamdulillah, the age of 35 of the Prophet ﷺ, 5 years before revelation, the matter arose of rebuilding the Kaaba. The Kaaba was the house of Allah that lied in the valley of Makkah, and being a valley, that whole geographical area from Yemen to Makkah to Medina was very low lying lands, and around which were just mountains. And due to that position of Kaaba, over time with the rain, that the Kaaba would be in need of repair, and there was a woman who took frankincense and for perfume and fragrance, and she lit that that container, and which made the fire, the Kaaba, cloth of Kaaba catch fire, so that the fire along with water and all that, it made the Kaaba into disrepair. So it was in need of repair, but the Quraysh, fresh in the minds was Abraha wanting to destroy the Kaaba not so long ago, before the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. So that was fresh in their minds, and they were scared to try and pull down the Kaaba to rebuild it. But Al-Walid bin Mughira, the father of Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, one of the greatest warriors of Islam, he said, look, if you're going to pull it down, are we doing it for its rectification or something good, or is it for something bad and harm it? It is definitely for something good, was the response. So he said, look, let's bring it down. I'll bring one wall down overnight, see what happens. If I'm okay the next day, let's continue. If not, then fine, stop. Next morning he was fine, so they carried on and continued to bring down the Kaaba in order to rebuild it again. Now at the time of Ibrahim al-Islam and Ismail al-Islam, when they had rebuilt the Kaaba, they raised it to 9 units, and now the Quraysh were going to take it up to 18 units. Now they raised it to the floor and to the ground and to the foundations of Ibrahim al-Islam, the Qawaid Ibrahim that they had set, and that was all. It's all one unit, because if you hit on one side, you can hear the noise on the other side, and it's all one unit. So they raised it down, they brought it down to that level, and then they started collecting money, and they made sure there was no haram money in there. There was only halal money. So anything to do with prostitutes, anything to do with alcohol and wine, anything to do with usury and riba, they put that away. Anything gained from that kind of business and haram businesses, and they only had collected goods. So they knew a concept of haram and halal. And with the aid of, there was a ship that sank, a ship that was sending timber. The Romans were sending it to Yemen to build a church that sank off the coast of Jeddah. So this was also being used in terms of, when it was salvaged from the sea, to build the Kaaba. Now the rebuilding, now that they collected the money, and they had wanting to raise it even higher, increase that. The issue was now that originally the Hijr Ismail, that Khutaim, that semicircle area, that wall that we have today, we can see, that was originally in the Kaaba foundations, but they couldn't include that because of whatever they collected. It was only, and they were increasing the Kaaba in length, in height, that they could not include that part. So now, as we see today, it does not include the Hijr Ismail, which is outside. What's so special about the Hijr Ismail is that's where Hajar, the wife of Ibrahim al-Islam, is buried, along with Ismail al-Islam, as he had a will that he wanted to be buried next to his mother. Now we don't know exactly the location, because over time, the rain and everything, and the layers of rock and sand and silt, and it is down there somewhere. Ibn Kathir also claims that between the water of Zamzam, the well of Zamzam, and the Kaaba, there's about 70 prophets buried, but that's something we don't have confidence in having a claim, making a claim. So that was the Hijr Ismail that was not included. The Prophet ﷺ, he did want to, after the conquest of Makkah, later on in life, that he wanted to make it back to its original how it was, include the Hijr Ismail in the Kaaba, to have 2 doors, not one, and to bring the door of the Kaaba down to the earth, because the Quraysh, from the time of when Ismail al-Islam and Ibrahim al-Islam made it, they raised it up and put some steps, as we see today, because they wanted to control who they could come in and all. This is about from pride. So Abdullah bin Zubair radiallahu anhu, the son of Asma bint Abi Bakr, the daughter of Abu Bakr, the sister of Aisha radiallahu anha, her son Abdullah bin Zubair, he in his time as a caliph, for the 8 years that he was a caliph of Makkah, the people gave him the oath of allegiance. He did make it such that how the Prophet ﷺ envisioned it, he made it as such. But then Hajjaj came, Ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, one of the army commanders of Abdul Malik bin Marwan, who was the Umayyad caliph at the time. He came and laid siege to Makkah, and then Abdullah bin Zubair was martyred, and he made it back to how the Quraysh had made it, and how we see it today is how Hajjaj has made it back again to how the Quraysh wanted it to be, with steps as well. But Abdullah Zubair did do exactly how the Prophet ﷺ envisioned it and wished it to be. The Prophet ﷺ did not carry it out in his time, because then there would be an accusation, there would be an opportunity to accuse the Prophet ﷺ. Look, he comes and conquers Makkah, and then he brings down the Kaaba. So just to get away from all of that, something for us to understand in life, to always show good behavior as Muslims, to portray us as how the Prophet ﷺ showed us to be in good modes of excellence and etiquettes and conduct. So the Kaaba, they had now raised it up, made it into 18 units, and then the issue was who's going to put the black stone in. And there was a huge argument. 4 days continued, and it was getting to such that it would be reaching the point of all-out war. Because when tribes, even if one tribe took from another tribe a goat, they would go all-out war. So this is now the matter of something so great, that honor about the black stone, the Hajar Aswad, to put that back in its corner. So they were arguing, and it was only when one of the eldest amongst them, who was Abu Umayyah ibn al-Mughira al-Khazrami, who was the uncle of Khalid bin Walid, radiallahu anhu, who said that, look, stop arguing, stop bickering amongst yourselves. The next person who comes, let's put that decision to them. And who is it to be? This was all Allah's plan. Who is it to be? It was to be the Prophet Al-Habib Mustafa Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was to be the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he walked and he said, yeah, Al-Amin, هذا الأمين رضيناه هذا Muhammad. That, this is the most trustworthy Al-Amin, as they gave him that name. And that due to they could trust in him, confidence in him, and he always spoke the truth. Yes, we are content with him. This is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it was up to him, and he brought out his shawl. They put down. He picked it up, put the Hajar Aswad in the middle, and then his solution: all tribes come and collect from the sides, pick up each side, and let's take it together, transport it to the place where it's going to be put in. And it was only the Prophet's blessed hands that he put it back in the Kaaba. There was a Sheikh from who had the characteristics of being from Najd, Sheikh Najdi. And Najd is more or less referred to with anything to do with shaitan, as it comes in the hadith. So this was some Sheikh Najdi, and it was Iblis, and he was here trying to stir up things and light a fire. And he said, look, you're going to give it to this youth who picked it up himself and put it in there himself, and he wanted to start war again and start all that kind of heated arguments. But Allah muted him, not literally, but the Quraysh didn't pay attention to him in the end. So it was such now the Hajar Aswad was put it back in its place, and that was the rebuilding of the Kaaba that took place at the age of 35 of the Prophet ﷺ. Now the significance of the Kaaba, it is that Qibla of the Arabs in this time period we're talking about, but then came to be the Qibla of the whole Muslims, that is where we put our direction for prayer and onto submission unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Kaaba is history. The angels before Adam alayhi salam, they came, built it. When Adam alayhi salam came into the earth, he then performed Hajj, and between his time and Nuh alayhi salam, before the flooding, all the prophets between that time, they all went to do Hajj. The time Nuh alayhi salam, the flooding, now the Kaaba was covered, hidden once again, and then it was from the children of Nuh, one of the children, Sam bin Nuh, who from whom came Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Ibrahim alayhi salam was then commanded to leave his wife Hajar and Ismail alayhi salam in that barren valley, and that is then given the order when Ismail grew up to be a young man, a young child, and they built it together, that foundations of the Kaaba. So that was a time it was rebuilt, and then the Jurhum tribe that Ismail Islam married into, they rebuilt it again because they had come into disrepair, and then comes this story where we are of the Quraysh rebuilding it to from 9 to 18 units. Time of Abdullah bin Zubair, it was raised even higher and made according to how the Prophet wanted it, as I mentioned, but that only lasted a short time, as Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi rebuilt it again as how the Quraysh had built it, and that is how we see it today. This will carry on until the day of judgment, until that final hour, and until Allah wills it to be. And at that point, when Isa alayhi salam will have come and gone, Dajjal would have come and gone, Isa alayhi salam would have slayed the Dajjal, the believers, a wind will come, the remaining believers, a wind will come, a pleasant wind, and will take their spirits away, and who is left on the earth? The worst of the worst, from the non-Muslims, from the disbelievers. And then the Quran as well, it will be all removed, all the ink in the pages of the Quran, everything, all the words will be wiped out, there will be nothing except blank books. And it will be at that time when Dhul As-Suwayqatayn, the one with the two shins, who come from Habasha, modern day Ethiopia, Abyssinia, come from there, who will come and then destroy the Kaaba, and that will be the end of the Kaaba. And inshallah, in the next part of the Seerah, we will be looking at that period before revelation comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and how was the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and how was his stay. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.